Hello, everybody. My name is Sadie, and I am here today to do a book talk with all of you. I'm going to cover books that are stranger than fiction. And indeed, I do have 6 books that cover a true story each, which goes beyond the scope of what we would typically believe to be possible. And so, without further ado, I'm going to get started. Here is our first book. It is Carlo Ginzburg's The Cheese and the Worms. This is an exciting story. You don't need me to tell you that. You can ask Minocchio himself. He is the protagonist of this story. You might ask yourself, why do I need to care about cheese or about worms? Why are they related? Why is this the title of this book and what does it mean? Those are all great questions, and I will answer them by putting you into Minocchio's shoes. Imagine that you are Minocchio, a miller living in the countryside of Italy in the 16th century. And you go about your daily business. You convert wheat into flour at your mill for the citizens of your town who depend on you for sustenance. They come by on a daily basis and they sit with you for hours as you go through this lengthy process to give them flour. And while they are waiting in the meantime, they are forced to listen to you explain your beliefs on the origins of the universe and your purpose in life and why people are here. And you explain all these heretical beliefs to them nonstop, even when they ask you not to. It doesn't help that you also have an extensive library with works that are not typical of a miller of this time, and that includes a translated copy of the Quran, as well as the travels of Sir John Mandeville and many other books. You continue on your day-to-day life. Life is great until one day you are accused of heresy and you are put on trial for your beliefs. And rather than realizing the trouble that you are in, or maybe realizing the trouble you're in and doing this in spite of that, you decide to represent yourself in court and explain your beliefs once and for all for the villagers in your town. This is the life of Minocchio, and this is the life that Carlo Ginzburg gives us a window into. By going through the trial and the notes of the trial that have been preserved through history, Carlo Ginzburg gives us a narrative by which we can read about Minocchio's life and piece together his beliefs as well as how he spoke with the villagers, what they thought of him, and what their relationship was like, and what this town was like. And because of that, we have a much better understanding of what life in the 16th century Italian countryside might have been like. And we're able to connect much more deeply with this era of history, despite it being so far away from our own time period. Read this book to learn more about Minocchio, as well as how vibrant and exciting life was like in 16th century Italy. And next we have Yukio Mishima's Confessions of a Mask. This book is an autobiography. It covers Mishima's life from early childhood into early adulthood. And now for a quote about that explains Mishima's thoughts about this time period. The period of childhood is a stage in which space and time become entangled. You can see this quote clearly illustrated in this book because Mishima, he joins together memories that are loosely related with his own thoughts of reflection. So he includes these memories in chronological order, and he explains how they have impacted him since they occurred. This includes growing up with his grandmother, who stopped him from interacting with his peers and his friends as a young child. He also explains how he did feel like he was wearing a mask throughout his childhood into adulthood because he struggled to come to terms with the fact that he was gay in post-war Japan, and he was trying to lead a conventional life that people would approve of. And so you can see his struggling to come to terms with his orientation himself and struggling to see other people come to terms with it as well. Another theme is of death and of patriotism. These two things are very much linked, as well as beauty. He links all three of these themes together throughout his life when he gets the chance to serve in the military for his country. Despite the fact that he loves his country and that he wants to fight for his country, he finally gets the chance to do so, and then he becomes scared and he falls through with it and struggles to understand why. And you can read about his struggles here in this book as well. He is a very conflicting person. He is very frank with his views, and the most interesting part to me that I find the most noteworthy is the fact that he was able to publish this book in Japan, and he was able to lay out his emotions after spending so much time hiding behind a mask. And this part is what makes him such a strong person for me, and his willingness to share his emotions and his struggles is super helpful for anyone who is just looking for someone to relate to, someone to read about, and to read about their emotions and see how they were able to navigate through their own life. And if you are someone who's looking to do just that, then you should read this book. And now for our third book, we have American Kingpin, The Epic Hunt for the Criminal Mastermind Behind the Silk Road. It's a biography by Nick Bilton. This indeed covers the criminal mastermind behind the Silk Road, but it also covers his loved ones and the criminal who was trying to chase after him. And this is a story of international crime, of threats against the United States, and of moral complications. But this story is not just as large as it claims to be. It boils down to a story of two young men in their mid-20s who are scrappy and young, and they are trying to prove themselves. And that's why you should read this book. You should read about two young men who are trying to find their place in the world. And I won't tell you how the book ends, but I will tell you that they do that and so much more in this book. For some context, the Silk Road is a website that was created by Ross Ulbricht in the early 2010s. He created this website after graduating from his master's degree, getting a materials engineering degree, and then deciding that he wanted to be an entrepreneur. This site is what stuck for him. Out of many of his projects that he had done, the Silk Road was an anonymous site where you could make purchases. They sold a number of things that were legal and illegal on the website, and you could anonymously purchase them through that website. What made that so dangerous is they sold a number of things that were illegal, including drugs and weapons, as well as other things too. This book is not just about Ross Ulbricht, though. It's also about the mid-20s detective who found out that this was happening by discovering drugs being sent through the mail. And he pieced together this case by himself, and then eventually it grew and expanded until the FBI of the United States was chasing after Ross Ulbricht. And that young detective, Jared Jervangian, chased after Ross Ulbricht in order to go from being a borders and customs person and into being part of the Secret Service, but by not following the rules. Both of these men are overeager. They are willing to bend the rules. They both have complicated moral standings. And that is what makes this book interesting. The fact that both men are relatable, are complicated, have wants and desires and goals for their own lives. And you can see how there's really a political ideology divide on this issue as well. And so you can read about the different sides of this issue, and you can read about what makes Ross Ulbricht tick And you can read about this epic hunt, which reads just like a thriller, except that it is real and is much larger than life. Read to find out more.